Welcome back to the Mad Spiderverse. I'm Mad Spidey, and thank you once again for tuning in to my channel. Today's video is going to be another one of my artist series. Now, in saying this is one of the ones I was actually dreading doing. I've been mentioning a little bit about some bad experiences that I've had. There's one in particular that I'm really hesitating to do. I will eventually get to doing it because obviously I'm going to run out of pieces eventually, and it might be just a factor of that I might pull out a folder and that might be the last piece that I need to do in that folder, and I'm like, screw it, let's just do it. But this one is a cautionary tale. Basically, I honestly don't know where to start. I know my brother Unruly Simeon, because of this particular story, calls me the most patient person in commission art or original art collecting. And as I said, this is a cautionary tale of know what you're getting into when you do commissioned art. So obviously buying pages and covers and pre-done pieces and things like that, it's pretty much, there it is, you buy it. You know, there's no real, unless obviously an artist, if you're getting it from a big cartel store or, or something like that, obviously, there might be like, oh crap, I forgot to send it, and they send it sort of thing. It's not like commission art where you could be waiting months or a year or years or anything like that. Now, I do say quite a lot that obviously me, when I've been doing my commissioned art from artists, especially at home commissions, that the two main problems or the two main gripes that commission art collectors have, one is communication and two is time frames. This cautionary tale has both. So before we get into the actual story and show you the art, this is going to be a bit, I know I do waffle a lot, this is going to be a very long-winded video. Generally I try and keep the artist series videos to 8 to 10 minutes if I can. This may go longer. It may not. It may, most likely it'll probably go longer. But yeah, buckle up. Please stay tuned if you can to this particular video. So, the artist in question is Felipe Massafera. Now, Felipe is a Brazilian artist. He's a self-taught artist. He is a brilliant artist. He's mainly known as a cover artist. How many times can I say artist in 2 seconds? But yeah, Felipe is mainly a cover artist. He's worked for Marvel, he's worked for DC, he's worked for Boom, he's worked for Valiant. He's pretty much done cover art for nearly every single major company and independent company. He's done a lot of massive titles, obviously working for Marvel and DC. He's done a lot of big titles. He's done, obviously, he's done Spider-Man and X-Men and Thor and all that sort of stuff. He's DC's done Batman and Superman and all the big sort of titles. I think he's worked for, as I said, Valiant. I think he did like Ninjak and, their big titles. Boom Studios, he's done the big titles in there. He's worked with a lot of, like online sort of resellers, like your big time collectibles and, BTC, that sort of stuff, to do exclusives through them. So he has come a long way. Like, I discovered him before all of that stuff. So obviously he still was doing a lot of covers, but he was mainly doing more independent covers. Like, he was doing mainly a lot of Valiant and things like that. But I saw other people had commissioned him, and his level of art is just ridiculously high, especially for a self-taught artist. Nobody, he hasn't gone to, like Joe Kubert school or, any of those sort of things. So yeah, super talented artist. Basically, the start of this story is, once upon a time, in 2013, yes, 2013, so this is the early days of me collecting. So I'd only been collecting original art for 2 to 3 years, I think, at that point. I'd done a few at-home commission experiences. Obviously, I started with con sketches, but then I eventually, you know, dived in. Once I knew about how the at-home commission scene worked, I dived into that. And I think 2013, 2014 was where I really went hard at it. Every time I saw an artist, even if I'd never even heard of the artist, if they were a published artist, I'd literally just try and get on their commission list if it was open and if I had the money. So I saw in 2013, Felipe had actually not necessarily opened his commission list, but he was self-represented at the time. A few of my friends from Australia had actually dealt with him before, said he was a super nice guy, super talented and all the rest. So 2013, I got a hold of his email address. I emailed him just asking for rates at the time. So obviously he had plenty of different tiers, obviously different paper sizes, you know, head, bust, full body, minimum background, maximum background, pencil, ink, paint, all that sort of stuff. But obviously he's mainly known for his painted commissions and painted covers. So me at the time, still sort of being a bit new, I was like, oh, I'd love to get one. And I said, look, if you ever free up some space or some time, whatever like that, I'd love to get one for you. He's like, yeah, he'd let me know, things like that. And then I pretty much forgot about it. A couple of months later, he actually emailed me and said, look, I've got a couple of slots open. If you're still willing to, you know, to get one, get on the list to do the commission, that'd be, you know, he was more than willing to do it. So I'm like, oh, fantastic. Absolutely awesome. I'd love to get one. So me, as per normal, I picked the top tier. I wanted a painted full figure with full background piece. Now he had a few odd paper sizes, like he had 9x12 and 11x17, which are your two standard sort of paper sizes when you're dealing with, you know, comic book artists. But then he had like 11x14 and I think like 12x18 or something like that, some weird sizes. But I know when you're working with paint, sometimes the paper sizes are a little bit different from your 9x12 to 11x17. But I picked the 11x17. I thought that's what I pretty much, you know, try and pick every single time if I can. I have all the folders and, you know, the supplies to be able to hold 11x17s. So that's what I chose. And as I said, chose full figure, painted with full background. Obviously, I'll get to the character choice once I actually get to the piece itself. So yeah, he's like, oh, look, I have some deadlines and things like that. So you may want to, you know, maybe a couple of months wait or whatever like that. And I'm like, that's fair enough. I sort of know the game at that time. Obviously, I was still sort of new to it, especially the at-home commission scene. Still fairly new to it. So now this was my first mistake. He did say to me, you don't need to pay for the piece up front. You can pay half at the start, half when it's finished, or you can just pay for the lot once it's finished. So me, being still a fairly, you know, as SimpleSimon would put it, a noob to the game. As I said, I knew a little bit and enough to get myself going, but the ins and outs of the payment side of things was still a little bit fresh. So me being the over anxious guy was like, I have the money now. I am going to send the whole entire payment because in my mind I'm thinking if I send the whole entire payment, it'll hurry him up. That was my first mistake. So in 2013, I commissioned him. I paid it all up front. I think I actually might have paid it in 2 payments, actually. I think I might have paid it, because I think at the time, yeah, I was getting paid fortnightly at the time. So for the Americans that don't know what fortnightly is, every 2 weeks. So I think I paid him like half or maybe 3/4 in the first pay that I had, or the money that I had at the time. 2 weeks later, I paid the rest. So I was like, I'm in, I've got the slot, I've paid for it in full. I should see it in a couple of months. Yeah. So that was my assumption anyway. So, once I'd done that, I'm like, I am very patient. I'm generally an impatient person in real life. But when it comes to the commission game, for some strange reason, I've become a very patient person. Obviously, over time, you can get a little bit angry, but you still phrase all your emails and all your communications and things like that very politely. Or I did anyway. So I did the usual thing. I gave it a couple of months. I just sent an email, just checking on progress, see how things are going, you know, or anything like that. The usual response was usually within a couple of days, sometimes a week. I would get a response saying, look, haven't got to it, got deadlines. And I'm like, yep, totally understand. Just get to it when you can. So maybe being the patient person, I just give it a couple of more months. Email again. How's it going? Any update? You know, any news? Have you started it? Is it halfway done? Like, what's the deal? Once again, I've got deadlines. Sorry, I haven't got to it or anything like that. So, me being the patient person, all I kept doing was I kept doing that. And obviously, kept doing that every couple of months. You can understand that time goes by, and then all of a sudden you're like, this has been outstanding for a year. And I'm like, I'd already had a couple of instances prior to this where I'd had a commission take about a year. So I'm like, maybe that's about the norm. So I'll just persist, but not be, like overdo it, like emailing every 2 days or every week or anything like that. I'll just be patient. Good things come to those who wait. So in saying this, I just kept doing this. A year rolls past. 2 years roll past. 3 years roll past. And then by this stage, this was my longest outstanding commission at the 3-year mark. I think it was about the 3 to 4 year mark. I'd literally said, look, mate, if you're not going to do it, just send me my money back. Plain and simple. By this time, he was actually repped. At the 3 to 4 year mark, he was actually repped by one of the premier rep things, Ivan in Brazil. And obviously, I'd gotten in touch with him, and he was like, yep, I'll try and help you push it along a bit and things like that. When he got involved, when Ivan had got involved, I'd actually received like 4 rough sketches, obviously like thumbnail sort of type things, like which pose do you like? So I'm like, okay, progress is happening. So I picked whatever it was, C or B or D or A, whatever it was. And then he's like, yep, okay, go ahead with it. I'm like, fantastic, okay, let's get this moving. Then all of a sudden, crickets. After that, literal crickets. He'd stopped being repped by the company that he was being repped by. He'd gone back to being self-repped, and just crickets. So I'm like, what do I do? I'm like, I tried reaching out to a few contacts and things like that I knew, a few other Brazilian artists that may know him. They even tried to get in contact with him, and their response was, we haven't seen him, haven't heard from him, don't know what's happening. I get an email about a year later. So at this time, we're over 4 years waiting. So you can see my blood's starting to boil a little bit now, just thinking about this. So as I said, this is going to be a very long-winded video, so please bear with me. So after the 4 year mark, I got an email out of the blue saying, look, sorry, had some family issues, had some health issues and things like that. I'm getting to it as soon as I can. I'm like, okay. So, I went back into patient mode again. I don't know why, but I went back into patient mode again, and I was like, okay, no worries, keep me informed. So once again, every couple of months, update. I think it was about the 5 year mark, he'd actually started painting it a bit. So I saw it literally had like the figure in the middle, hadn't started any of the background. He was asking a few questions and things like that. And I'm like, okay, well, something's happening. I have some light at the end of the tunnel. It literally got to about I'd like to say maybe the 6-year mark. It was between 5 and 6 year mark. And he said, look, I'm really, really sorry. The same old excuses again. Family problems, health problems, things like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, it should have been done maybe 4.5 years ago. But in saying that, you know, I still stayed patient. And he offered to do me another piece on top for nothing for my weight. And I said to him, I said, look, don't do another piece. Like, even though it's a generous offer, don't do another piece, because that means I'm probably just going to wait another 5 years. And I didn't want that. So I just said, look, just finish the piece and send it to me, and then we're done. It got to the 6-year mark. Yes, that's right. 6-year mark. And I'd literally seen, and then just out of the, once again, he ghosted me. Totally ghosted me for about a year after that last conversation. It was about a year. And then it was like, once again, I'm so sorry. I was getting to it, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, look, you know, I'm gonna do you another piece anyway. And I said to him, I said, look, there's no need to do it. Don't worry about it. And like, he'd literally shown me my original piece, and it was about 80 to 90% done. And I'm like, whew, you know, this is a very long saga. It's getting there. At least it's almost done. And he's like, I'll get it to you within the next month or two. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see. So it basically got to the point where it was that, and then once again, crickets. So I'd seen the piece was literally about 80 to 90% done, and then crickets. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm like, I'd literally given up at that stage. Obviously, I couldn't claim through PayPal that window, that boat had long sailed. Other artists from Brazil couldn't help me. The old rep couldn't help me. Nobody could get a hold of him. I didn't even know if he was still alive. Meanwhile, I'd spoken to a few of the guys here in Australia that had actually dealt with him before, and one of them actually said to me, my friend Nick, he'd actually said to me, he goes, I actually have 2 pieces outstanding from him at the moment. It's been 3 years. And I'm like, well, dude, you got nothing on me at the moment. So, in saying that, COVID hits. COVID hits at 2020. So I'm talking 7 years. 7 years. COVID hits. I'm like, this is great. Like, I'd literally, to be perfectly honest, I'd written it off. It was a lot of money for me, especially with the currency conversion, because it wasn't Brazilian, it was paid in US dollars. So the currency conversion, at the time, the currency conversion actually wasn't too bad, but it was still a lot of money for me, especially being on minimum wage. And he'd ghosted me. I'd literally just written it off. I actually have a little book where I kept all my outstanding commissions. I'd write, okay, email, blah, 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 date, or whatever like that, and this is the response. And then obviously once I'd actually physically received it, I'd put a cross through it. I know it's done and dusted. I'd given up. I'd put a cross through it. I didn't even put any further updates or anything. I just put a cross through it. I'd written it off. I'm like, I've lost this money. COVID hits. I get home from work, and this was sort of mid to late in the year, 2020. So COVID was definitely in full swing, because we got hit with COVID February, March. I think this was something like September, October. I get home from work, and there's a parcel sitting there. I'm like, okay, must be one of my outstanding commissions, because it was, flat pack, outstanding commission. I'm like, okay, no worries. I look at it and go, it's from Brazil. But I'm like, I don't have anything with any Brazilian artists at the moment. I have a look at the name, and it says Felipe Massafera. And I'm like, you fucking shitting me? He actually sent it. I couldn't believe 7 years, million emails, been ghosted probably a total of maybe 3 years of those 7 years, and it actually shown up. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. So I open up the parcel. There was my original piece. There was a second piece. And there was an apology note with a piece entailed in it. So, I have now waffled on for 20 minutes, and I will show you the end result. So, the first piece I'll show you is actually a piece that's done as an apology. So you can see the year. It says, my lighting's gone all a bit hazy. 2020. And as you can see, it says, Simon, sorry for the long wait. Best wishes. So he's given me a 9x12 painted head sketch of Green Goblin as the apology note. So, and this was the first thing I saw. This was on top. And I'm like, wow, that is pretty cool. So like as I said, when I first opened it, I saw this and I thought, he sent this as the apology note and I've got my piece. And that's the main thing. So that was absolutely wicked. So it's a 9x12. And then I pull that out and all I can see is the backing, and I'm like, oh, this must be my piece. And I'm like, this is not my piece. He has done me. Now, this is a weird size too. It's a 13x19. So I've actually gotten an upgrade on the piece of on the size. And the actual piece that I commissioned was upgraded to a 13x19 as well. So you can see once again the signature and the year. And he's actually done that full Spider-Man piece. So full figure painted with what you'd classify as minimum background as a bonus. Even though I said I don't want it, just send me my original piece. So he's done that and he's sent that. So I've basically, for this ridiculously long story and ridiculously long wait, I ended up with 3 pieces. The original piece that I actually commissioned, that I picked 11x17, fully painted, full figure with full background, was Spidey 2099. And there is the piece. So just the amount of detail and stuff that he's put into this is absolutely ridiculous. Once again, you can see, I think he's actually, he's put the signature down the bottom there. Oh, sorry, on the side there. A very futuristic looking city. Lots of cool sort of light effects. And even just the definition on the muscles and the chest and everything like that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I went from year 1, commissioning 11x17, fully painted, full figure with full background, to obviously that one in a 13x19. I've got an additional full figure, fully painted with minimal background, 13x19, plus the 9x12 head sketch painted with the apology note on it. So there you go. So patience does pay off sometimes. In this case, it did. Now, obviously, I've told this ridiculously long-winded story. But as I said, this is a cautionary tale that, one, know who you're dealing with. 2, communication is key. So try and keep up your community. Like, don't go stupid. Don't message them every 2 days, because that's just ridiculous. Because, as we know, artists have regular deadlines. They may already have 100 people on a commission list already. Know your time frames as well. So, yeah, know the artist, communication, and time frames. Ask for a time frame, and also check on payment side of things as well. Don't be overzealous like I did. Some artists will ask for full payment up front. Sometimes you can say to them, look, I'm not comfortable with that. Can I pay half up front or a deposit? Can I pay the rest when you're finished? And once you're finished, I'll pay you the full, and then you can send it. Some artists will say no, full payment up front, and that's it. You know, and then you either do or you don't go ahead with it. If you go ahead with it, that's your prerogative. If you don't go ahead with it, then, you know, probably better to you to have that peace of mind, but then obviously you're going to miss out on an opportunity possibly. So, yeah, so this is, as I said, this is the cautionary tale. This is one of my bad experiences, I would say. Obviously it had a happy ending, which is fantastic. Very long time to get to that happy ending, but there was a happy ending. There are a couple of more tales like this that I will tell eventually. There is the worst opportunity I've ever had, or the worst experience I've ever had. That is the one I'm hesitating to do the most. I will eventually do it, but there have been a few where being patient has paid off with the results, and I will get to those as well, but full transparency along the way. I know these artists are never ever going to see these videos. If they do, you can't put me on blast because I'm not in the wrong. I'm just telling, as I said, a cautionary tale to let the viewers know what I've been through. You may have totally turned things around, and you may be right on top of your game now, and all the power to you. If you're still the same, then yeah, let the viewers be warned. So anyway, this has gone ridiculously long. I need to finish it, but yeah. So thank you very much. If you did actually watch this whole entire video, I greatly appreciate it. I know people like Comic Journey will probably just put it on 4 times and just have me in chipmunk mode. That's fine. But yeah, please be cautious when commissioning art from artists. And as I've said before, if you ever got any questions, just hit me up on IG. Obviously, as I've said before, I've been out of the game for a little while. Things have changed a lot, but still the same principles still exist. So, as I said, yeah, if you've got any questions, you know, chuck a comment down if you want to ask a question. Hit me up on IG, on the DMs if you want to. I'm perfectly fine answering questions if you're a bit unsure about getting in or what to do when you actually have this sort of issue. I also recommend, if you know my good mate Mike Beckerman, he has been around in this game a lot longer than I have. He knows a lot more than I do. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions as well. But in saying that, let's get this finished before I hit 30-minute mark, because this is ridiculous. But thank you very much, each and every one of you, for my subscribers. If you've watched this video, the whole entire thing, I greatly appreciate it. Yeah. Until next time, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and Spidey out.